In the seclusion of their vacation home, where promises were meant to be renewed, Emma's heart crashed against the jagged rocks of betrayal. The fire crackled in the living room, but the warmth did nothing to thaw the chill that settled between her and Alex. Caught in a web of forbidden longing for James, Alex's best friend, Emma's resolve to forgive shattered like glass when she found herself holding the remnants of a confession never meant for her eyes. The echoes of unspoken desires and broken vows hung heavy in the air, poised to unravel everything she once held dear. Chapter 1. Whispers in the Corridor. The corridors of St. James Hall were always dimly lit, offering a sanctuary of shadows where whispers seemed to gather and linger, like the ghosts of untold secrets. Emma found herself drawn to these corridors, finding solace in their quietude, but today was different. As she wandered aimlessly, her mind a whirl of wedding plans and floral arrangements, she was halted by a sound that pierced through her thoughts, a hushed conversation seeping through the cracks of a closed door. Her steps faltered, curiosity lacing her every move. She hesitated, feeling the invisible pull of words not meant for her ears, yet the allure was undeniable. Hearing through the slight opening, she recognized Alex's voice, her fiancé, with its familiar cadence tinged with something she couldn't quite place. And then another voice, deeper, more resonant, James, Alex's best friend. Emma's heart gave an unexpected lurch. James. The name alone stirred a flutter of emotions she had long buried beneath layers of loyalty and duty. She leaned closer, her breath hitching in her throat. "Can't keep this hidden much longer," James was saying, his tone a mix of urgency and reluctance. "I know," Alex replied, his voice a strained whisper. "But it's complicated, Emma. She can't find out, not now." A chill skittered down her spine, leaving a trail of goosebumps in its wake. She should have turned away, respected their privacy, but the tang of betrayal was intoxicating, a bitter curiosity that rooted her in place. "You need to tell her," James insisted, his voice carrying an edge that made Emma's heart pound in her chest. "It's only fair." "I will," Alex promised, though his voice wavered with uncertainty. "I just need more time." Time. The word echoed in Emma's mind, a ticking clock counting down to an unknown revelation. What could Alex be hiding? And why did James seem so concerned? She bit her lip, feeling a pang of guilt mixed with a flicker of intrigue. Her feelings for James, once a mere shadow of a thought, now surged forward, unbidden and undeniable. As the conversation lulled, Emma stepped back, retreating into the shadows that had so willingly embraced her. Her heart was a tumultuous storm, her mind a maze of questions and doubts. Emma's world, once a tapestry of certainty, now frayed at the edges with whispers of secrets and unspoken truths. She knew she couldn't confront Alex, not yet. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and its roots were spreading fast, threatening to upend everything she held dear. With a final glance back at the closed door, Emma turned, her footsteps echoing through the corridor as she walked away, her heart heavy with the weight of what she had overheard. She needed answers, and as much as she feared the truth, she knew she couldn't rest until she unearthed it. As she stepped out into the crisp evening air, the cool breeze offered no comfort. Instead, it whispered promises of change, leaving Emma with a decision she wasn't ready to make. Yet, deep down, she knew the truth would not remain hidden forever. And as the night settled in, Emma felt the stirrings of a journey she had not anticipated, a journey fraught with betrayal, longing, and the ever-present shadow of her own heart's desires. She took a deep breath, steeling herself for the unraveling that was sure to come. Chapter 2. Secluded Shadows. The vacation home stood like a secret nestled amid the whispering pines, its wooden facade softened by the embrace of the forest. Emma and Alex arrived at dusk, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting the world in hues of twilight. Despite the serene beauty surrounding them, a palpable tension clung to the air between them. Emma found herself standing at the edge of the porch, wrapped in her thoughts. The distant murmur of the woods seemed to echo her internal conflict, a symphony of uncertainty and unspoken words. She watched Alex unload their bags, his movements mechanical, as if burdened by an unseen weight. She wanted to reach out, bridge the distance that had grown between them, but the memory of that conversation lingered like a shadow she couldn't shake. "It's beautiful here," Alex said, breaking the silence as he joined her on the porch, his voice a tentative offering. "It is," she replied, her eyes fixed on the silhouette of the trees, their branches swaying in a gentle breeze. She felt his gaze on her, searching for something she couldn't give. Not yet. Inside, the cabin was cozy, the warmth of the fireplace casting flickering light across the room. Emma busied herself in the kitchen, her hands moving with a purpose that her heart lacked. Alex hovered nearby, his presence a constant reminder of the unspoken truths between them. "Emma, is everything all right?" Alex asked, his voice a mixture of concern and hesitation. She paused, the knife stilling mid-chop, her heart a cacophony of conflicting emotions. "I'm just tired," she lied, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It's been a long day." He nodded, though his eyes lingered on her, as if trying to decipher a puzzle she wasn't ready to solve. His strange behavior, an unfamiliar distance, an occasional distracted look, only fueled her suspicions. What was he hiding? Later, as night enveloped the cabin in its quiet embrace, Emma lay awake, the bed feeling vast and cold despite Alex's presence beside her. Her thoughts drifted to James, the echo of his voice a persistent reminder feeling she had tried to bury. There was a time when James's laughter had been a balm to her soul, his friendship a constant she cherished. But now the boundaries of their relationship felt blurred, her heart betraying her with its insistent flutter. Emma turned, watching the moonlight dance across the ceiling, her mind a battlefield of loyalty and longing. She wondered if Alex sensed her turmoil, if he felt the same unease that gnawed at her insides. Her hand brushed against his, a tentative connection that spoke of the chasm between them. "Emma," Alex murmured, his voice thick with sleep. "I'm glad we're here." She swallowed the lump in her throat, wishing that gladness were enough to banish the shadows lurking in their midst. "Me too," she whispered, though her heart knew otherwise. As the night deepened, Emma closed her eyes, surrendering to the pull of dreams tinged with uncertainty. Yet, even in sleep, the shadows of her heart remained, a constant reminder of the secrets that lay in wait, demanding to be uncovered. Chapter 3. An Unexpected Arrival. The sun had barely begun to cast its first rays over the vacation home when a distant rumble interrupted the stillness of the morning. Emma, standing by the kitchen window, watched as a familiar car pulled into the gravel driveway, her heart lurching with a mix of excitement and dread. James stepped out of the car, his presence an unexpected ripple in the calm surface of their getaway. He glanced up at the house, his expression unreadable, before grabbing a small duffel bag from the back seat. Emma's breath caught in her throat, the past rushing back with unrelenting force. She hadn't seen James since that day at St. James Hall, and the sight of him now, here, felt like a jolt to her system. Memories of shared laughter and unspoken moments danced in her mind, alongside the lingering question of what he might know about Alex's secret. Emma turned away from the window, her hands trembling slightly as she set the coffee pot to brew. She heard the front door open, and Alex's voice, surprised yet welcoming, as he greeted his friend. "James, what are you doing here?" Alex's voice carried into the kitchen, filled with genuine surprise. "Thought I'd join you guys for a bit, if that's all right," James replied with a casualness that belied the tension Emma felt simmering beneath the surface. Emma steeled herself and stepped into the living room, offering a tight smile. "James, it's good to see you." His gaze met hers, holding for a moment longer than necessary, his smile warm, but tinged with something she couldn't quite place. "Emma, you look well. Thanks for having me on such short notice." "Of course," she replied, hoping her voice didn't betray the swirl of emotions inside her. The morning unfolded with a veneer of normalcy. They sat around the breakfast table, the clinking of cutlery against plates the only sound as conversation meandered through safe topics. But beneath the surface, Emma felt the pull of unspoken words, the weight of everything she wished she could say to James but couldn't. James's presence seemed to cast a shadow over Alex, his demeanor subtly shifting from relaxed to guarded. Emma noticed how Alex's laughter no longer reached his eyes, how his hand would occasionally ball into a fist beneath the table. As the day unfolded, Emma found herself alone with James on the porch, a comfortable silence stretching between them. She leaned against the railing, the cool air balm against her heated cheeks. "I know this was unexpected," James said softly, his gaze fixed on the distant horizon. Emma nodded, her heart pounding. "It's nice to have you here," she managed, though her mind screamed with questions she dared not ask. James turned to face her, his expression earnest. "Emma, about what you overheard." Her breath hitched, a flash of panic sparking in her chest. "James, He shook his head, cutting her off gently. "I just want you to know that whatever happens, I'm here for you." There was a depth to his words, a promise that resonated with a part of her she thought she had buried. Emma looked away, the weight of his sincerity almost too much to bear. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely carrying over the gentle rustle of leaves. The rest of the day passed with a strange tension, an unspoken understanding weaving its way between Emma and James, a silent acknowledgement of feelings left unsaid. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Emma found herself longing for clarity, for the courage to face whatever lay ahead. That night, as they sat around a crackling fire, the warmth of the flames danced in Emma's eyes, her thoughts a tangled web of desire and loyalty. She watched as Alex's gaze flickered between her and James, a silent battle fought in the shadows of their friendship. And as the stars scattered across the night sky, Emma realized that the secrets she feared might not be the only truths waiting to be uncovered. In the quiet of the night, she felt a shift, a subtle realignment of her heart, as it gravitated towards the unexpected arrival that was James. Chapter 4. The Unraveling. The morning sun filtered through the lace curtains, casting delicate patterns across the wooden floor. Emma, restless from a night of tangled dreams and whispered doubts, found herself drawn to the study, a room Alex often used but never shared. Its door, slightly ajar, beckoned her with the promise of answers. She stepped inside, her fingers brushing against the dust-coated shelves, lined with books and trinkets that seemed to belong to another life. Her gaze fell upon Alex's desk, cluttered with papers and the remnants of a life meticulously hidden from her. Among the chaos, a single envelope caught her eye, its edges worn as if it had been handled many times. With a heart pounding as loudly as the distant waves crashing against the shore, Emma picked up the envelope. Her name was scrawled across it in Alex's familiar handwriting, the ink smudged as if written in haste. She hesitated, the weight of her decision pressing heavily upon her shoulders. But curiosity and the need for truth outweighed her fears. The letter inside was brief but devastating. Words of regret, apologies tangled with confessions of a heart divided. Alex had been seeing someone else, someone he described as a fleeting mistake, yet the words felt permanent, etched into her heart. Emma's world tilted on its axis, the foundation of her trust crumbling beneath her feet. Breathless, and with tears threatening to spill, she crumpled the letter in her hand, the paper's sharp edges biting into her palm. Emma's mind raced, reliving every moment with Alex, every promise now tainted by betrayal. There was no escaping this truth, and she knew she couldn't face it alone. With determination fueled by anger and hurt, Emma sought out Alex. She found him in the garden, the peaceful setting a stark contrast to the storm brewing within her. "Alex," she called, her voice steady yet laced with an edge that didn't go unnoticed. He turned, surprise flitting across his features before settling into a guarded expression. "Emma, what's wrong?" She held up the crumpled letter, her eyes blazing with accusation. "This," she said, her voice trembling with the weight of her discovery. "How long were you going to keep this from me?" A shadow passed over Alex's face, guilt mixing with a flicker of defiance. "Emma, I can explain." "Explain," she interrupted, her voice rising. "You promised me honesty, Alex, so you promised me forever." He stepped closer, his hands reaching for hers, but she recoiled, a visceral reaction to the betrayal that now lay bare between them. "I was going to tell you," he insisted, desperation creeping into his tone. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. It meant nothing. Emma laughed, a bitter sound that echoed through the garden. Nothing, it meant everything, Alex. Everything we built together is now a lie. Silence stretched between them, heavy and suffocating. The truth lay exposed, raw and unyielding. Alex's gaze dropped to the ground, his shoulders sagging under the weight of his own actions. "I never wanted to hurt you," he said softly, an echo of his earlier promises now shattered. Emma turned away, the tears she fought so hard to contain finally spilling over. She needed space, time to breathe, to distance herself from the tangled mess of emotions that threatened to drown her. The garden, once a place of solace, now felt like a cage. As she moved to leave, she paused, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Alex, not this time." She walked away, each step feeling heavier than the last, her heart aching with the knowledge that nothing would ever be the same. Behind her, Alex remained rooted in place, the weight of his choices hanging heavily in the air. Inside the house, Emma found herself in the kitchen, the faint aroma of the coffee she had made earlier still lingering. She leaned against the counter, closing her eyes against the torrent of emotions. It was then that she heard a soft knock on the back door. James stood there, his expression open and concerned, as if he had sensed the storm brewing from afar. Without a word, he stepped inside, offering nothing but a silent presence that spoke of understanding and a willingness to shoulder some of her pain. Emma met his gaze, finding solace in the warmth and honesty she saw there. And as the first tear slipped down her cheek, she realized that amidst the unraveling of her life, she was not entirely alone. Chapter 5. Shattered Vows. Emma stood in the sunlit room, the morning air crisp with the unspoken promise of a new day, yet she felt as though she were suffocating under the weight of her decisions. The vow renewal, a symbol of love rekindled, now felt like a cruel joke. Her heart was in disarray, a collage of broken promises and fragmented dreams. The decision to cancel was not made lightly. It had haunted her in the quiet hours, in the solitude of night when the world seemed to whisper her uncertainties back to her. Emma picked up her phone with trembling fingers, each number dialed a step toward finality. Her voice was steady when she spoke to the coordinator, but inside a tempest raged. "I'm calling off the vow renewal," she said. The words hung in the air, heavy and irrevocable. Hanging up, she felt hollow, like a puzzle with missing pieces. The house was eerily silent, the only sound the ticking of the old clock in the hallway, a reminder of time slipping away, of moments lost. Emma sank into the sofa, her mind replaying every tender moment with Alex, now tainted by his infidelity. Regret clawed at her, a relentless specter that left her questioning every choice. Had she been too harsh? Was there room for forgiveness in a heart so bruised? Yet, the image of the letter, with its damning truths, remained etched in her mind, a testament to the betrayal she couldn't simply wish away. In this maelstrom of emotion, Emma found an unexpected anchor in James. His presence was a balm, his steady gaze a lighthouse guiding her through the fog of her turmoil. He knocked gently before entering the room, carrying the quiet assurance that he was there for her, regardless of the chaos. "Emma," he began, his voice a soft murmur that seemed to wrap around her like a warm embrace. "I heard about the vow renewal. I'm so sorry." His words were simple, yet they chipped away at the wall she had built around her heart. Emma met his gaze, finding comfort in his sincerity. I thought it was what I wanted," she confessed, her voice breaking. "But now, everything feels so wrong." James moved closer, his presence a steadying force. "It's okay to feel lost," he said, his hand brushing hers in a gesture that was both tentative and reassuring. "You don't have to have all the answers right now." Emma nodded, grateful for his understanding. In the silence that followed, the room seemed to breathe with them, a moment suspended in time where she could almost forget the chaos that awaited outside these walls. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows across the floor, Emma felt a shift within her, a flicker of hope amidst the despair. She wasn't alone. James, with his quiet strength and unwavering support, was a reminder that life could still hold beauty even when it felt broken. "Thank you, James," Emma said, her voice soft yet filled with gratitude. "For being here." He smiled, a gentle curve that spoke of patience and unspoken promises. "I'll always be here, Emma." In that moment, Emma realized that her future, once defined by shattered vows, was now an open canvas. The choices ahead were hers to make, and while the path was uncertain, she knew she would not walk it alone. Chapter 6. A Heart's Confession. The room was quiet, encased in a soft golden glow as the sun began its descent, painting the walls with hues of amber and rose. Emma sat near the window, the light catching the curls of her hair, turning them into threads of liquid gold. Her heart felt heavy, with the weight of decisions unmade, yet there was a strange peace in the chaos she had been living. James stood at the threshold, a silent sentinel against the gathering dusk. His eyes, deep and searching, held a truth he had long kept hidden, a truth he could no longer deny. He took a breath, steadying himself before stepping forward, the floorboards creaking softly under his weight. "Emma," he began, his voice barely more than a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the fragile moment they shared. She turned to him, her eyes reflecting a tumult of emotions, fear, hope, and something unspoken, hovering between them like a ghost of a dream. "I need to tell you something," he continued, his gaze unwavering, holding hers as though it were a lifeline. "Something I should have said a long time ago." Emma's heart skittered in her chest, an erratic dance of anticipation and dread. She nodded, encouraging him to go on, though part of her feared the revelation that hung in the balance. James took another step closer, his presence a comforting warmth against the chill of uncertainty. "Emma," he said again, his voice a balm to her frayed nerves, "I've loved you for as long as I can remember." The confession hung in the air, a delicate thread, connecting them in a tapestry woven with shared moments and silent dreams. Emma's breath caught, her mind racing with the implications of his words. She had always known, on some level, that there was more to their friendship than either had dared to acknowledge. Yet hearing it now, spoken aloud, was like stepping into a new world, a world where possibilities stretched out before her, vast and unexplored. "James," she breathed, her voice trembling with the weight of emotions she had tried to bury. "I don't know what to say." He reached for her hand, his touch gentle yet steadfast. "You don't have to say anything right now," he assured her, his thumb brushing lightly over her knuckles in a gesture of reassurance. "I just needed you to know whatever happens. I want you to know that you're not alone." Emma's heart ached with a mixture of gratitude and confusion. James's confession was a beacon in the storm, offering a glimmer of hope amidst the tangle of her emotions. Yet she was afraid of losing him, of the risks that came with opening her heart once more. "I need time," she admitted, her eyes pleading for understanding. "Everything so tangled?" James nodded, his expression one of patience and quiet resolve. "Take all the time you need," he said, his voice a promise. "I'll be here waiting." As the last vestiges of daylight faded into twilight, Emma felt a shift within her, a subtle reorientation of her world. The path before her was uncertain, fraught with challenges and choices yet to be made, but for the first time in what felt like an eternity, she did not feel adrift. In the silence that followed, they remained together, sharing a moment that was both an ending and a beginning, a heart's confession that had set them both on a new course, one filled with the potential for healing and love. Chapter 7. Reflections and Realizations. The morning air was cool against Emma's skin as she stepped onto the balcony, a steaming cup of tea cradled between her hands. The world seemed to hold its breath in the early light, a tranquil canvas unmarred by the chaos that had recently woven itself into her life. Emma took a deep breath, the crisp scent of pine and earth grounding her in the present moment. Yet her mind was anything but serene. It was a tumultuous sea of reflections and realizations, each wave crashing into the next with relentless force. She leaned against the railing, her eyes tracing the horizon where the sky kissed the earth, and let herself drift back through the events that had led her here, to this precipice of change. In the solitude of the morning, Emma allowed herself to confront the truth she had been avoiding. Her heart, long divided, had finally found its compass. It pointed unwaveringly toward James, a realization both thrilling and terrifying. She recalled their conversation the previous night, his gentle confession resonating within her like the sweetest melody. How had she not seen it before? The way his eyes lingered on her, the subtle kindness in his every gesture, the words left unspoken that now seemed so painfully obvious. But love was never simple, and with the clarity of her feelings came the shadow of fear. What if she stepped forward only to fall? What if she lost James too, in the pursuit of this newfound truth? The thought tightened around her chest like a vise, pulling her back into the safety of hesitation. Her history with Alex was a constant reminder of the risks that came with opening one's heart, the scars of betrayal still fresh and raw. Emma closed her eyes, the warmth of the sun a gentle reminder that life moved forward, with or without her consent. She needed to make a choice, to either embrace the possibility with James or retreat into the familiar cocoon of solitude. Her mind flicked back to the easy companionship she had shared with him over the years, the laughter and quiet moments that had sustained her more than she had ever realized. "Emma," a voice called softly from behind, pulling her from her reverie. She turned to find Sylvia, the housekeeper, standing in the doorway with a knowing smile. "Breakfast is ready. Thought you might like some company this morning." Emma nodded, grateful for the distraction. "Thank you, Sylvia. I think I'd like that." As she followed Sylvia inside, Emma felt a small shift within her, an inkling of courage taking root amidst the uncertainty. She didn't have all the answers yet, but perhaps she didn't need them all at once. Perhaps the journey itself, with its trials and triumphs, was where her heart would find the resilience to trust again. And with that thought, a sliver of hope pierced the fog of her doubts, a promise of warmth on the horizon yet to be reached. Chapter 8. A New Path Forward. The morning sun streamed through the kitchen window, pooling on the wooden table where Emma sat, her fingers tracing absent-minded patterns on the smooth surface. Opposite her, James leaned back in his chair, his eyes searching hers with a mixture of hope and uncertainty. The air between them, once charged with unspoken words and hidden glances, now felt like a bridge waiting to be crossed. Emma took a sip of her tea, the warmth a steady reassurance. "I've been thinking," she began, her voice steady despite the flutter in her chest, "about everything, Alex, us, what I really want." James nodded, his expression open, inviting her to continue. "And?" he prompted gently. She hesitated, the weight of her decision like a tangible entity in the room. "I've realized that life is too short to be spent holding on to fears. I want to embrace what's real, what feels right," she confessed, her voice gaining strength with each word. "And that's you, James. It's always been you." A slow smile spread across his face, a light in his eyes that seemed to banish the shadows that had lingered between them for so long. "Emma," he breathed, reaching across the table to take her hand. His touch was a promise, a tether to a future filled with possibilities. Her heart swelled with a mix of relief and joy, emotion she hadn't dared to hope for in the aftermath of Alex's betrayal. She squeezed his hand, feeling the solidity of his presence, the unwavering support that had guided her through the darkest moments. "I'm scared," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But I'm more scared of not taking this chance." James moved around the table, his chair scraping softly against the floor as he joined her side. He wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. "We'll take it one day at a time," he murmured against her hair, his breath warm and comforting. "Together." Emma nestled into his embrace, feeling the last remnants of her doubts dissolve like morning mist under the rising sun. The path before them was uncharted, but it was theirs, a journey they would navigate side by side. Later, as they walked hand in hand through the garden, the world around them seemed to echo their newfound resolve. The vibrant blooms swayed gently in the breeze, their colors vivid and alive. Emma felt a sense of peace settle within her, a quiet assurance that she had chosen rightly. "Look," James said, pausing to point at a butterfly flitting among the flowers. It fluttered with a grace that seemed almost deliberate, its wings a delicate dance of colors. It's a sign, he teased, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Emma laughed, a sound that felt like the first notes of a long-awaited symphony. A sign of what? She asked, playful curiosity in her tone. That beautiful things can emerge from the most unexpected places, he replied softly, his gaze locking with hers. Together, they watched the butterfly disappear into the sky, its path a testament to resilience and transformation. Emma knew their journey wouldn't always be easy, that challenges would arise like sudden storms, but she also knew they would face them together, fortified by the promise of their love. As they turned back toward the house, the warmth of the sun on their backs, Emma felt a sense of belonging she hadn't known she'd been missing. Their future stretched before them, an open road ripe with potential and hope, and she was ready to walk it, hand in hand with James. For the first time in what felt like forever, Emma felt the weight of the past lift, replaced by the lightness of